critical election in this country. You turn out to vote in large numbers on the 12th of August. Say by 16th of August, we are sworn in at 10 hours. Very good. 10 hours we are sworn in. By 14 hours, the Kwacha will appreciate against the dollar. By 14 hours.
So technically speaking, he didn't lie when he said that the Kwacha is going to appreciate. He didn't lie because we saw the price of the Kwacha appreciate drastically. You know, this was the move that really made the Kwacha really gain value. Let's talk about the Zambian Kwacha. Now, I know for a fact that this conversation is going to be a very difficult one to talk about, or rather to have with you, because for some reason, right, you have a bias. And I do know that there are people who are sort of affiliated to certain camps, PF, UPND, MMD. So each and every one of you, right, you have this sort of biased point of view. But in today's episode, I just want you to forget about all that, because we are going to talk about specifically the data. We're going to look at the price analysis from 2000-ish, 2010, all the way up to 2025, because we've got that data. And it's easy for us to like go in there and just basically look at the price action, understand what was happening to the supply and the demand, right? And why the price was fluctuating either towards the upside or towards the downside. So this is purely a data-driven conversation. So in the comment section below, I would really love you to sort of, exercise your intellectual prowess so that we can have a civilized discussion. Without further ado, before I digress further, let's get into this. Ladies and gentlemen, what you are seeing on the screen right now is obviously a pair between US and the Zambian Kwacha, the US dollar and the Zambian Kwacha. So the base currency is US dollar, and you have to remember that these currencies are inversely, correlated with each other. So if one performs very well, the other one tends to perform poorly. And right now you are seeing me demarcate the different time frames where MMD, PF, and UPND ruled Zambia. So the blue is obviously represented by MMD. This is MMD, all right, and then green is represented by PF, and red is represented by UPND. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be analyzing the performance of the Kwacha during these respective periods. However, you have to keep in mind that our analysis starts from 1997, because this particular level right over here is 10th September 1997. So we're mostly going to be dealing with 1997 all the way up to about 2025. So as you can clearly see, right, the performance of the Kwacha has been very, very poor. We have consistently, gradually, and sustainably lost our value as a nation. So since 1997, we've only had small periods, so small windows of periods where the price of the Kwacha was able to appreciate. By the way, in case you guys are a little bit confused, right? When you see the chart go a little bit red, it means the Kwacha was performing very well, because I told you that the base currency is the US dollar. So if the US dollar is losing value, it means the Kwacha is appreciating. So as you can see, we had periods where the Kwacha sort of appreciated by about 50%, and we saw these significant drops. So do you remember 2008? Do you remember the global crisis in 2008? This right over here, the turnaround of the Kwacha in correlation with the dollar was this pinnacle level right over here. So since 2008, we haven't had major significant sustained rallies as far as the Kwacha is concerned. Of course, we had periods like these, periods like that, and also periods like the recent one when the UPND was elected. So moral of the story here is, as a nation, we haven't even been able to compete against the dollar, because we have consistently lost against the dollar. So we need to ask ourselves, what are we doing wrong? Where do we need to do it right so that we can have more appreciation of the Kwacha? So like I told you, right, what we're going to focus on is only price analysis, depreciation, appreciation. That's it. We're not really going to go into those macro and micro economic factors that really affect the currencies. What I want to do is just show you a visual representation of the performances of the different governments that Zambia has had since the past 30, 40 years. And this right over here is a very good sustainable rally as far as the Kwacha is concerned. So since 2003 all the way up to 2006, we saw the Kwacha appreciate in value. But what happened after 2006? We obviously had the global crisis, and since that particular time frame, everything has gone crazy. So do you remember our HIPIC completion point, right? Obviously, the MMD were able to negotiate, and we reached some negotiations with these big organizations, and we were able to sort of talk our way out of a lot of debt. And this is one of the reasons why we saw a very good sustainable growth as far as the Kwacha is concerned. But regardless of the aid that we were given, right, we still lost value. And this is one of the reasons why we always have to understand that aid doesn't really develop any nations. No matter how many, aid, or rather how much aid they give you, right, if you don't really have the basic principles of growing an economy, you're still going to come back to zero, because it's not really a sustainable solution to developing a nation. So what I really wanted to focus on is obviously the performance of the UPND and the and the PF, and also the MMD with regards to the performance of the Kwacha. Getting back to what we were talking about, right? MMD did a very good job in terms of trying to keep the value of the Kwacha, but they lost right before 2008. Obviously, a lot of inflation, a lot of banks were closed. There was very slow economic stimulation during that particular period, because a lot of companies were exiting the Zambian markets, plus global financial situations were happening. So there wasn't really any economic growth that could have arisen from 2008, or rather before the markets crashed in 2008. So we understand why the Kwacha was performing very poorly. However, when the PF came through, right, they found the Kwacha at around approximately $5, five Kwacha per dollar. Ever since they came through, right, we obviously saw massive depreciation of the Kwacha, and we saw the Kwacha rise from about $5 all the way up to around $22. One thing that we have to give a big shout out to MMD for is obviously they started a lot of these projects. I remember during the MMD era, they negotiated and sort of, got some funds to create, or rather develop, the roads. So the roads that were built during the PF era were initiated during the MMD era, and we obviously saw the completion of these projects during the PF era. So it's an effort that started during this time frame, and it ended up being completed during this particular time frame. So we obviously saw a lot of expenditure as far as Forex is concerned. But one thing that I really wanted to draw your attention to is the level of depreciation that PF found in comparison to UPND. So if we take a look at this price chart, right, if we calculate the percentage of depreciation of the Kwacha ever since PF inherited governing of Zambia, right, we obviously saw a 281% price depreciation in accordance to how they found the prices, as far as them taking over taking over from UPND. So during the PF era, we saw the Kwacha depreciate 281%. So we have to ask ourselves, like, what was happening during this time frame? What really led to the depreciation of the Kwacha economically? I'm going to leave you to answer that question. So drop your question in the comment section below. Now, one thing that we have to talk about with regards to analyzing the performance of the Kwacha, especially after one government steps in, is we have to look at how and where they find the Kwacha. So when UPND was elected and they started ruling government, right, obviously the price started appreciating. So do you remember that time frame when President Hakainde Hichelema was saying, once I'm sworn in at 14 hours, the kwacha will go down. I'm paraphrasing, okay, so don't quote me on that one. But yeah, this is the period of time where the kwacha started appreciating dramatically. We saw the price of the kwacha appreciate, and the price started around $22. 22 kwacha 68 cents, and it dropped all the way down to around close to 14, which is around $15 32. Sorry, 15 kwacha 32 ngwe per dollar. So this was a crazy appreciation of the kwacha, and this was like close to a 35% price appreciation. Okay, so in comparison to the patriotic front, the price of the kwacha has sustained itself, because they got in around this level when the price per dollar was 22 kwacha 15 ngwe, and right now the current value of the kwacha is 28 kwacha 18 ngwe per dollar. Okay, so when UPND inherited the governance of Zambia, right, the price of the kwacha has only depreciated by 28% approximately from when they go in. Okay, the reason why I'm not really counting the depreciation level from 15 kwacha 15 ngwe is due to the fact that President Hakainde Hichelema was already ruling when the kwacha started appreciating. So this, obviously, the performance of the kwacha had sentiments, positive sentiments with regards to how the economy of Zambia was going to flourish, etc. So it was during his tenure that we saw the kwacha really get to appreciate by over 31%. You get my point? So this is one of the reasons why we have to calculate the depreciation based on the price that the UPND got in when they started ruling Zambia. And this is one of the reasons why I am considering 22 kwacha. So when PF left, the price of kwacha to dollar was 22 kwacha 62 ngwe per dollar. Right now, the current price of the Zambian kwacha is 28 kwacha 18 ngwe per dollar. So we have seen a 27% price depreciation, and we also have to factor in the different economic mishaps that happened since 2021. We had COVID. We obviously had quantitative easing by the U.S. government. So basically, quantitative easing means the U.S. government printing a lot of new dollars, and countries like Zambia that have their reserves in dollar, right, they're obviously going to face a lot of depreciation. So if we consider the fact that UPND got in when the markets were in turmoil as far as the international markets are concerned, right, obviously they've done a very good job in terms of sustaining and minimizing the depreciation. Depreciation of the kwacha has obviously happened, but it hasn't been as bad as the way that the depreciation rate was during the PF era. When PF came through, they were right over here. Okay, one kwacha was around 5 kwacha 75 to $1. But take a look at where they ended up exiting the markets. It's really a crazy depreciation level. So most of you are going to say, okay, look, this is just the beginning of the rule of the UPND. We do not really know what's going to happen in the next 10 years. So anyway, you do have a valid point, but let's judge them for a period of a shorter period of time. So if we do that, right, we're also going to see that they did very well to sustain the economy as well. So from 2010 all the way up to 2015, right, that was obviously this level. If we had to judge them per term according to their performance. So now let's do this, okay? Because some of you are going to say you're judging a period of about 10 years, And when it comes to UPND, are only judging them on a period of about 5 years. So this right over here is 2010 to 2015, 2016. So now let's take a look at the value of the depreciation that they found. So in a period of about 5 years, they obviously had a crazy depreciation of around 139%. Okay, so 139% in a period of 5 years, which is absolutely crazy in comparison to the performance of the UPND. And if you remember, right, if you had to compare the global economic structure between the first 5 years of the PF and the first 5 years of the UPND, these are totally different economic conditions. And this is one of the reasons why, from a data perspective, UPND has performed better in the first 5 years than PF. Okay, and if you also even get to compare with MMD, this is not even a story to even talk about, because we know, we had a very significant downtrend since the UNIP era. So MMD just basically lost it all, so we can't even compare what was happening to the Kwacha, the value of the Kwacha during these eras. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to really give you like a visual representation of what we're looking at from a price analysis perspective. So to me, if you compare 28% in comparison to a depreciation of around 140%, 139%, which is, well, that's a huge significant difference. So it's very important for us to understand and do further probing as to why this happened. But I do know for a fact that obviously during the PF era, there was a lot of expenditure. There was a lot of infrastructural developments, which is quite understandable. So we saw a really good outflow of forex with regards to the Zambian side selling, in order for them to sort of get to have some few things done here and there. So this is one of the reasons why obviously we gained infrastructure in terms of roads, but we lost our value in terms of the in terms of the power of the Kwacha. So now the other question that we're supposed to be asking ourselves is, okay, what else are these guys going to be able to do in the next 5 to 10 years? Do they have a plan for them to sort of sustain the Kwacha and make it appreciate in terms of value? Because if we've got economic stimulation, right, domestically, right, we're obviously going to see the Kwacha really drastically appreciate. So do they have a plan for it? One of the good things about UPND is that they've been able to hold the value. And by holding of the value, right, I'm meaning in a general perspective, because a lot of you are going to be saying, the Kwacha was around $15 and then now it's around 28. That's like a 50% depreciation value. Yeah, I get it. I understand. But if you take a look at the global factors as well, that really plays a key role. And just like we have highlighted, right, when they got in, the price of the value of the Kwacha was 22 Kwacha 46 Ngwe per dollar, and right now it's around 28. So the 27% depreciation is honestly not really that bad. Okay, so the reason why the Kwacha started performing very well right over here is obviously due to market speculation. Obviously, new president, economic progress was expected, so we obviously saw this appreciation of the Kwacha, which is quite understandable. And this is obviously a concept that President Hakainde Hichelema knew very well of. And this is one of the reasons why he was able to say it with confidence that, okay, when I get sworn in, the price of the Kwacha is going to appreciate. So technically speaking, he didn't lie when he said that the Kwacha is going to appreciate. He didn't lie, because we saw the price of the Kwacha appreciate drastically. This was the move that really made the Kwacha really gain value. So he technically did not lie. However, sustaining the value of the Kwacha is a different ballgame altogether, because it's no longer about speculation and market sentiments. It's actually about real market structures, real demand versus supply, and all that good stuff. So you can't really keep the prices down based on speculation, because at the end of it all, the markets have to correct in a very realistic perspective. So there's a lot of other different factors here at play. During the PF era, we saw a lot of different commodities a lot of different subsidies in terms of our commodities. Fuel was subsidized, plus a whole lot of other different stuff. So there was obviously a lot of different government expenditure. And to me, according to my opinion, right, subsidizing a lot of different commodities doesn't really give the overall perspective of the markets, because you are artificially stimulating the market in a way which is detrimental to you. Because even if you subsidize, right, if the economy is doing very bad, it's going to reflect, no matter how much you try to pump in the markets, because the markets are a zero sum game. In order for a currency to appreciate, another currency has to depreciate. So value has to flow from one level to another. So you can't really artificially stimulate an economy. If you do it, it won't really be sustainable. So this is one of the reasons why we have to be honest with each other and understand where true value really stems from, and how we can sort of sustain and keep the value. Okay, how do we sustain and make sure that the kwacha appreciates? This has been another exciting edition of one of those Z Corner TV type of videos. So I really hope that you guys, got a thing or two. And, in case you've got any other contributions, suggestions, comments, arguments, whatever, just drop it in the comment section below. So remember, we are going to be coming at you basically on a daily basis with different talking points. We're going to mix it. Entertainment, politics, finance, fashion, and just a whole lot of different stuff. So yeah, hopefully you guys continue supporting us. So thank you very much for being present. So yeah, class dismissed.